Tsleil-Waututh and Squamish people, by whose grace we are permitted to gather, work, and play. You know, I stood at this very spot 13 years ago. At that time, I was just newly elected as Member of Parliament for Vancouver-Kingsway, and at that time, the riding of Vancouver-Kingsway went to Oak Street, from Oak all the way to Boundary. In 2015, that was moved to Main. But I was aware of this jewel, this community, this model of what successful social housing can and does look like. And I was mortified at the time. I was appalled to learn that the federal government of the day that owned the land through CMHC, through a secret deal, transferred that land that was federal Conservatives, went to BC Liberals. And then what they did, as has already been commented, was they entered into a private arrangement where, again, I won't even use the word sell, because I'm a lawyer, and when you give a billionaire a $211 million interest-free loan for 18 years and don't tie it into building anything, my friends, that's not a sale. That is a crime. That is an economic crime. And I remember being just absolutely blown away by the community spirit, the work of so many city officials and councillors and elected officials at the municipal level, and my provincial colleagues. And again, a great shout out to David Chudnovsky and the people in his office. I see Kelly here, Kelly Reed and others. Hi, Kelly, who sat and worked with the community, and these fabulous people, Ingrid Steenhuisen and others, who stood up and said, this is not okay. And I stand here today full of a mixture of emotions. I feel disappointment. I feel sorrow. I feel anger. And I feel hope. You know, on these fences, I think it's written, great stories take time to write. Now, I don't remember much from my high school English class, but I do remember learning about satire. And I'll tell you, so do tragedies. They take a long time to write too, and tragedies also can happen very quickly. So when I stand here and I think this is land that can and should and was and can be in the future used to house people in an affordable, secure, dignified way, that's what makes me full of the sorrow and disappointment, because as we sit here in the midst of a housing crisis, we watched a provincial government sell public land in a place that you can't get it back, displace 700 residents, abandon and sell off social housing, give it away to, as I said, a billionaire, and leave land largely fallow in the midst of, I think, the worst housing crisis that Canada has ever experienced. Now, if that's not a colossal public policy failure, I don't know what is. Now, I'm full of some hope, because we got this land once, we can get it again. And I stood here a couple years ago where these wonderful organizers gathered here and talked about, as Derek said, taking back the mountain. And I don't know what level of government has to be involved, federal, provincial, but we should buy this back. In fact, maybe we can do it on the same terms that it was acquired. Let's see if Holbern will make that deal again. Or you know what? I'm not even opposed to expropriation with appropriate compensation. But this is a model. We all know that there can be more density here. We know that. But this should be 100% devoted to social housing, housing for seniors, co-op housing, low-income housing, housing for people from diverse communities, you know, co-housing. That's what this land can and should be used for. And so I stand with you today just to tell you a little story, and then I'll turn it over to my next wonderful colleague, Anjali, who is running, and I think should be the MP for this riding in Vancouver-Granville. who will fight for these things, but I just want to tell you this quick story. I was door knocking not too far from here on East 28th and between Windsor yesterday, and I came across a pretty modest house, and a woman came to the door, and she was clearly someone who'd immigrated to Canada, and she told me that she's not voting. And I asked her why, and she said, because all politicians are the same, it doesn't matter what parties are elected in office. And I sat and talked to her for 20 minutes because I think it does matter. The political parties, from the federal Conservatives, provincial Liberals, and they're the same, Conservatives and Liberals, who committed this economic crime, this public giveaway, don't deserve anybody's vote. I told her if there's one reason not to vote for those parties, it's because of what they've done to housing. We didn't wake up yesterday morning and find a housing crisis. This has taken 30 to 40 years of bad policy decisions at the federal and provincial level. And I can tell you and pledge to you that people like Angelie and myself and others, if we get to Ottawa and we have any power, whether it's in a minority government or majority government, I'll tell you that I'll work night and day to bring this land back into public ownership and build the housing that people in this community need. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here today. Let's stand together.